Just when you thought the Hunter Biden gun deal, the diversionary agreement, the elitism that was shown for Hunter Biden, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it just did. Not only did a judge blow it up last month in her courtroom, not only did the prosecutors for Delaware say, yeah, we're not doing this anymore, now the Biden attorneys have said, it doesn't matter, you already signed it, nanny, nanny, boo-boo, immunity forever for everything. You can't make this up. Everything will be linked in the description box below, and I can't wait to hear from you guys on this one. And send this out because it speaks to a hypocrisy we have not seen in a long time. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. This is something that we need to spread far and wide, and particularly make sure you weren't accidentally unsubscribed, because every time I say that, you guys go up by like 300 or 400 on the sub count, and that's pretty irregular, so you guys figure that out. And the content that we're about to cover is brought to you by SDI. Now, I know a lot of you out there like to upgrade and modify your own guns. And if you're looking to turn a hobby into a career, Sonoran Desert Institute can help. Their online programs cover everything from gunsmithing to woodworking and finishes, shooting sports management, and more. Plus, all the tools and materials are shipped directly to your door. There's never been a better time to turn a hobby into a career, so what are you waiting for? There's a link in the description box below, and thank you so much to SDI for making this content possible. Now, my brothers and sisters, let me show you what we're talking about, and then I'm going to give you a little backstory on this in case you don't know all the details. Hunter Biden's lawyers claim the U.S. prosecutors reneged on a plea deal. Agreement on gun charge is still binding. Now, if you're not familiar and you weren't covering this, Tim and I covered this on Second Legacy together. We've covered it on this channel a few times. Now, Hunter Biden committed a felony on guns. His father is anti-gun extraordinaire, pushing for gun control against the rest of the American citizen. But for his son, it's perfectly fine. There is no consequence because it's a plea deal. It's perfectly good. Well, now, the interesting thing about this was there was a tax portion, and then there was a diversionary agreement. In the diversionary agreement, the prosecutors agreed that he wouldn't have any jail time for the gun charge. And just so happened, coincidentally, not because he's a Biden or a political elite, there was a little clause added in that diversionary agreement that gave him blanket immunity for things like foreign lobbying charges and other things of larger tax nature. Isn't that weird? Well, the judge blew it up in her courtroom, but his attorneys say, no, too late, too bad, too sad. You signed it already. It's on forever. Hunter Biden's legal team said in a Sunday court filing that federal prosecutors reneged on a plea deal reached by both parties in June, and an agreement reached on a felony gun charge against the president's son still stands. So basically, they're saying, you can't get rid of it. We want immunity forever. Tell me you're afraid of uncovering something without telling me you're afraid of uncovering something. They are actually going against the judge and calling out the prosecutor, saying, too late, so bad, so sad. You already signed it. We're immune forever. That's what they're saying, even though the judge said we're not agreeing to it. Let's keep going. The filing Sunday came after prosecutors moved to drop the plea deal in Delaware completely. Prosecutors said Friday that Biden may be headed for a criminal trial after plea negotiations broke down in court last month. So the Delaware U.S. attorney said, yeah, no, we're not doing this. We're going to withdraw this whole plea deal. The attorneys are going, no, can't do that. You already signed it. Hunter Biden's free forever, including things that you might charge him for on a federal level. It doesn't get any more corrupt than this, but let's continue. The president's son was expected to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax counts of willful failure to pay federal income tax, as well as enter in a pretrial diversion agreement with regard to a separate felony firearm charge. That's the part we talked about. That's what had the clause in it that gave him immunity, blanket immunity for everything forever, including foreign lobbying things around a specific part of the world, of which you guys know the rest of this story. But let's continue, because it turns out it's a binding agreement, and you know what? Too bad, too sad. That's what his attorneys say. While the deal on the tax charges fell through, the lawyers argued that the agreement on the gun charge was executed and thus binding. Again, that includes that diversionary agreement. They want the immunity for the future. They don't want this to come up again in the Biden administration's re-election campaign. They don't want this to come up at all, because the Biden administration has determined that the Democratic political move for 2024 and the election strategy is gun control. Can't have this. Let's keep going. The filing says, quote, The defendant intends to abide by the terms of the diversion agreement that was executed at the July 26th hearing by the defendant, his counsel, and the United States, and concurs with the statements the government made during the July 26th hearing, in which the government then acknowledged in its filings agreeing to the public disclosure of the plea and diversion agreements, that the parties have a valid and binding bilateral diversion agreement. Again, notice how they're letting the tax thing go and they're focusing on the diversionary agreement. They don't want the felony gun charge. They don't want the felony time, and they definitely want to hold on to that immunity that was agreed to by the U.S. Attorney in Delaware. Again, this doesn't get any more gross. But I got one more thing for you. Check this out, because I'm sure this is just timing that has nothing to do with anything. Their filing Sunday came 2 days after Attorney General Merrick Garland announced that he would name David Weiss, the U.S. Attorney for Delaware, as the special counsel to lead investigations into Hunter Biden. Republicans immediately criticized Garland's selection of Weiss, who led the prosecution in Biden's tax and gun charges that conservatives blasted as too lax. So you've got Merrick Garland, who was appointed by Biden, President Biden. You've got President Biden's son, Hunter, getting a sweetheart deal off on the gun charge, of which you would go to prison for, by the way. Taxes, we'll worry about that later. Don't worry about where the income came from. Then there's a diversionary agreement, which gives him blanket immunity for everything going forward, including foreign lobbying charges. And it's all perfectly fine. There's no corruption here whatsoever. Oh, by the way, the U.S. attorney, who's now the special counsel, is the same guy who gave the deal to begin with. You can't write this in a fiction novel. And that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.